Well, thanks for being here today. I appreciate everybody making the time and braving the elements. Interesting opportunity that we have today to introduce 15 signees and one preferred walk-on to our 2018 signing class. It's going to be an interesting process that we're going to go through. I was just kind of looking quickly at some of the numbers from around the league, and I think there's a lot of people that are still kind of operating, hey, we're going to use this as a mid-year junior college signing period. For example, when I was looking at it, the University of Idaho signed 3, and they were all mid-year junior college guys. And so I think it's going to be, everybody's going to have a different take, a different philosophy on exactly how to go about this, and what they're going to strategize and use kind of the old formula until we get all this figured out. What we did, and I think it's really a tribute to our staff, was really work off of kind of more of an FBS model, try to lock in as many kids as we could here in December, and that would open up a lot of clarity for us and also allow us to really expend the resources where we need to the most as we get into January and into the second signing period in February. And so with that being said, this recruiting is all about relationships, and I think that our staff did a tremendous job of formulating relationships with a number of high school players throughout the state of Montana and the Northwest, as well as in California. And then I think you'll see those ties and those relationships as we start talking about some of the transfer student athletes that have committed to Montana State and signed today. And I think that's just a testament, again, to the quality of men that we have in this program that are leading our young men every day. Some thank yous that I want to throw out. Jamie Rizzuto, I know she's not here today. Jamie does a ton for us. It always starts, our official visit weekends start every single day that we bring them in on campus. It starts with academics. And we do that by design. She does an awesome job of presenting what the options and the opportunities are for the young men that are coming here on the official visits. She's kind of our contact to the academic advisors across campus, and they do a tremendous job as well. This is truly a team effort. Leon Costello and the administrative staff, many of whom are here today, do a great job of welcoming these kids on campus, and I think that they get the feeling that football is important here at Montana State when they have the opportunity to interact with our athletics director. The Hilton Garden Inn and Coley down there, their people, it's amazing how welcoming they are to us, and they do an awesome job hosting our young men when they're on these trips. Really, the people of Bozeman, probably one of the biggest pieces of feedback that I get when you debrief with parents in particular is, when you walk downtown, every single storefront has a Go Cats sign in it, and they get the feel that this is truly a college town and an environment that they want their sons to be a part of. It's an awesome deal. Mike Hope and the Rockin' R people, Bob Fletcher at Burger Bob's, I could go down the list. Lots and lots of people help us make this happen. And so with all that being said, like I said, it really probably comes down mostly to these relationships. Our staff members that have done an awesome job. 2 people that do a great job in terms of setting up these official visit weekends. One, Brittany Johnson, our operations director, and the second is Cole Moore, Cole is probably the unsung hero in recruiting. I think our staff would all say that to a man. This guy watches a ton of tape, passes some things on to us, and is really very good at his job. And he's also a former, excellent former student athlete here at Montana State. So I am going to the format that we're going to use today, I'm going to make some just general comments about the staff, about the signing class. I'm going to turn it over to BJ, and BJ's going to talk about the Montana signees. And then I'm going to turn it over to Coach Pitre, who is our recruiting director, coordinator, and he's going to talk about the out-of-state signees. We'll circle back. I'll hit on the transfers, the mid-year transfers, and then I'll take some questions. And so, kind of the obvious thing here for me is in this recruiting cycle, this is probably the first time since I've been here that I felt like we were putting a bullseye on some things. My first 2 recruiting cycles here, it was kind of take them all, we'll figure it out. Had a lot of needs, had a lot of places that we had to improve. Now I feel like we're in a spot where we can say, okay, we've got to get better specifically at this position. We can look at data and say, okay, what were our deficiencies on offense, defense, and in the kicking game, and say, okay, this is how we can go about trying to rectify that problem. Obviously, there's going to be work that we do from a schematic standpoint that'll I think improve and coach these kids the right way. But at the end of the day, this is a player's game, and you got to have good players. And so I think that's been we've had some very hard conversations in our staff room that are good. The right kind of conversations when your program's on a solid footing. It's not like I said, it's not just take them all and we'll figure it out later. Now we've got to make calculated decisions about our roster spots. How many guys are we going to be signing, because that can affect our 85. We haven't had a full 85 since I've been here. We haven't got to a full 104 since I've been here. And so those things I think are in play this year, and I think that'll make our program better, and I think that speaks to the solid footing that it's on. And so, very excited about this group. As I said, we have 15 young men that have signed today, 1 preferred walk-on. The Montana kids, I think are all kids. We recruited these kids for 12 months. This was not a short recruiting cycle. If there's anybody that does a better job of connecting with high school coaches and players around the state of Montana than BJ Robertson, show him to me, please, because we'll hire him too, because I think we've got the best. He's very well respected and well known in the high school community around the state of Montana. This guy writes, I don't know how many notes he writes a week to in-state recruits and those high school players and coaches, but it's pretty impressive. And so the guys that we targeted in the state of Montana, many of them are young men that we offered on signing day a year ago. And they followed through with us. I know I don't want to steal BJ's thunder. He'll talk specifically about that. But we felt like we added value to our roster really in all 3 phases with the in-state kids. Out of state, this is where I think that you'll see, this is where it's going to get a little more challenging, I think, at Montana and Montana State, is because it's whether these kids are going to wait and see or not. That's the group that we're going to be talking about. The Montana kids, I would hope that we're going to be able to identify, get the kids that are fit for Montana State, and get them to jump in this early signing period. The high school kids that are out of state, sometimes it's going to be different. But one thing that stood out with this group was, come to our camp. Come to our camp and you'll get an offer. If you put up good numbers, if you show yourself out, and a number of these young men did that. Got on our campus early, we developed connections with them, and they stuck with us through the recruiting process. And then lastly, the transfers, that's probably the biggest area where I think we can see some immediate needs being filled, and I'll talk more specifically about that, but I think we did that again in all 3 phases. We've got help on the D-line, we got help at the skill positions on offense, and we got help in the kicking game. And so with all that being said, I will turn it over to Coach Robertson, and he'll talk about these Montana guys.
Appreciate Garrett, another one of our unsung heroes, our video staff. They put together great edits for our guys and put this together so you guys can kind of follow along a little bit. We'll have some film. We can talk a little bit more specific on each guy, but overall, just what Coach said, the Montana class, things that stick out to me are these guys are guys that came to our camp. Like Coach said, we identified a long time ago, and they've been with us the whole time. I think that's the big thing that really, kind of with the change over the hill, that made me feel good about the guys we're getting, is they weren't guys that, hey, we were just showing up at their door asking, hey, these guys were guys that have been with us since March, February, and said, hey, this is where I want to be, and they've been with us the whole time. So we'll get started. Probably it's going alphabetical, but probably the guy with the most accolades in the state that kind of has name familiarity is Nolan Askelson, Billings senior. Started both ways on a 2-time state championship team. When recruiting Nolan, probably the biggest thing a year ago was when talking to Coach Murdoch at senior. He said, hey, this is a guy you got to keep your eye on. He's going to be the guy that's going to help push us over the top. He ended up starting in a spot that maybe they didn't necessarily see him at, which was quarterback. Did an outstanding job. Obviously, his baseball background helped him there. Sometimes I gave him a hard time that I swear he threw a couple interceptions just so he could get back on defense and go lay somebody out. So, Defensive Player of the Year in the AA. You'll see he's a physical guy, outstanding student. One of the draws, obviously, to Montana State, besides the football program, was the engineering program. So, taking a quick look here, you'll see here, intelligent guy, blitzing him up the middle. Okay, he's getting blocked. What's he going to do, right? He's not just going to sit there and hand fight with the guy. He's going to get out, a little flush of the quarterback. Here he is, closes the gap, takes him down, adds a little insult to injury at the end, which you love that. Okay, here he is off the edge. Again, reads it, comes up the middle. Again, sure tackler, physical guy. Off the edge, he's got a little juice coming there, you can see. Last but not least, I thought this one was kind of my favorite. You watch Nolan's, a lot of times you watch linebackers and they're blitzing free and making tackles, and you're like, well, I hope the guy can make a tackle when he's unblocked. But here, takes on a blocker here, okay, gets underneath his pads, takes him out, and there's relentless, right? Staying with him, obviously that's a good player. He's taken down there with one arm. So again, excited to have Nolan Askelson join us. Jeff Choate, obviously the name's familiar. Big thing that stuck out to me, when recruiting, is going into the high schools and talking not only to Coach Weshy at Bozeman High, but the coaches around the state. Jory made a huge impact in his senior year, led to AA in sacks and tackles for loss. But then you go into Bozeman High. Obviously, he's only been at Bozeman High for 2 years. Was voted captain by the team, and then ended up being the Hawk of the Year, which is their most outstanding football player, which that's voted on by the players, and that's a huge testament to a guy that's only been in the school 2 years. So again, high motor guy, football intelligent guy. You can see here, again, like I said, making a lot of plays in the backfield, low pad level, good get off, taken out there. Again, you can see coming off the edge, like how he's staying square here, a little zone read. Okay, plays the running back, then has the short area burst here to get in and make the tackle. Again, coming off the edge, another opportunity here. Again, lowering his pad level, burst, taking out another guy with a little bit of speed and nullifies him before he gets started. Here, probably my favorite clip overall. Again, a little bit undersized, probably playing at the DN. We'll look at transitioning him to a linebacker. But again, pad level, just straight force, taking the guy all the way back to the quarterback, taking him out. Again, gotta love that physical nature. Can't teach that. Mark Estes, kind of a little story on Mark, obviously. Most guys are familiar, started out in Drummond, an 8-man player. So he and I have been laughing that this year is kind of his redshirt year. So he got to take the step up to the AA, if you will, getting accustomed to the 11-man game. I think that's only going to help him. Obviously, also, he had to learn a new system, new teammates, all those sorts of things. And a lot of times, being a small school guy, all of a sudden you come to the big program, and now you're kind of, trying to figure out, hey, is this a fit? There's extra guys on the field, all that stuff. Mark's already gone through that process with the year at Glacier. Obviously, Glacier didn't have the year that Coach Bennett and those guys were hoping for or kind of are accustomed to. But, talking to Coach Bennett, played him both ways at times. They made a switch at their quarterback position through halfway through the season, and you really saw Mark kind of take off from that. But again, multiple sport athlete. He won the 100, 200, and 400 last year in the Class C. So again, a guy that's got some speed, and you'll see that in these clips that Garrett put together. So again, okay, blown the top off. Okay, you can see he's behind him. Good ball skills. Again, he did play some basketball as well. This year he's just doing football and track. So again, we'll see how his speed matches up with the AA guys. I'm excited for that. But again, over the shoulder, tough ball, tracks it, brings it in, outstanding body control there. And again, if he gets behind you, you're not going to catch him. Talked about his speed overall. So excited about Mark, and like I say, having that red shirt year, taking the next step now and bumping it up to the FCS level. Local guy, Logan Kleinhans. Again, coming from a great passing offense, Coach Weshy down at Bozeman. You saw what the last Bozeman receiver we got last year did this season as a true freshman. Logan also, the thing that I love about Logan obviously is a special teams guy. If you flash back to the state champ, or to their playoff game against Billings Senior, starts out the game with kickoff return for a touchdown, easy for me to say. So again, a guy that you can get the ball to. Again, he's across the middle kind of receiver, but he also has the ability to take it the distance. The other thing, again, a multiple sport athlete, an all-state trackster last year. So taking a quick look at him. Again, didn't maybe have the complement as the receiver that he had last year, not having Lance out there. But again, you can see just a little quick hitch, has the ability to get back to the outside and then take it the distance. Again, you see him going up here, maybe a little bit of that track ability that him and his family are known for. Obviously, he had an older brother, Jake, that was a heck of a trackster at Bozeman as well. And then down here at the bottom, again, they got him the ball in a lot of different ways. But again, excited to have him, and looking forward to the steps he takes as a receiver. Joe McElroy, kid out of Missoula, Loyola. Again, good student, private school, kid that Loyola came down to camp as a team, but also Joe made it to the individual camps. Again, good size frame, multiple sport athlete, currently playing basketball, has great feet. That was probably the first thing that jumped out at Coach Choate. He's still young for his class, so we challenged him really in the film. I think you'll see that. But going into his senior year, we wanted to see a more physical play out of him in that regard. So again, we're looking at him to transition. If you see him play basketball, you see he has great soft hands. but also at the point of attack as a tight end, looking to see if he can make that transition. But you can see, again, moving his feet, staying with the guy, getting on him. We'd like to see if he can put the horns in him at the end there, right? Still got a little more nastiness we can bring out. That's that good private school education, teaching him to be a nice kid. We got to keep getting him to be physical and finish there. I showed up with a mustachio, so the private school's not, they're starting to cut corners up there at Loyola on that. So anyway, the great mustachio here. Again, just loving this right here, the line of scrimmage, 5. You know, he's going 10 yards down the field and burying the kid. So excited about Joey and his upside. Another Class B kid, Lane Sumner. You know, Bobcat, probably from birth it sounds like. Getting to know him. Coach Pitre knew a lot about him already because he's been coming to camps, even little guy camps in his junior high. He's always impressed. His work ethic is probably the first thing that really stood out to me in the weight room. You know, he's 5'7", 185-pound guy. He power cleans 300 pounds. Does an awesome job in the classroom. Student A's student, B student. Just an outstanding guy. So probably some of the question marks, which I think guys would ask initially, is a smaller guy. You know, can he break tackles, or is he just kind of a little water bug guy? No pun intended on the water of the field there. You guys can laugh if you want. Okay, all right. Jeez, tough crowd here. All right, so you can see good vision, but again, a couple guys getting a hold of him, breaking tackles. Again, low center of gravity, compact guy going high, right? He breaks the tackle. But the other thing, again, multiple sport guy, football, basketball, and track. Won Class B in the 100 last year. The other thing, all right, can you split him out? Yes, he's got hands. Makes a great catch there, makes a guy miss. Now he's got great vision, looking to bring the cut back. And then again, as we talked about, now you see that track speed kick in, a little pitch play. So again, a guy that, you know, a lot of times people think little guy, you can't necessarily run him between the tackles, but he made a lot of hay in between the tackles and then obviously on the outside. Last but not least in Montana, Caleb Winterburn, again, was a guy that came and really stood out and kind of separated himself at camp. Coach kind of talked about it a little bit in the press release that you guys will get. And again, he was a guy that lined up at quarterback, lined up at receiver, lined up at DB, lined up at linebacker, did whatever we asked him to do. And again, sometimes we didn't even have to ask him, he just jumped out there and did it. So again, his competitive nature was what really separated himself at camp. Obviously, besides his 6'1", 200-pound athletic frame. But again, takes Helena High, maybe a team that a lot of people didn't have predicted going to the state championship this year. He's their quarterback and leads them down to the state championship, and obviously made it a heck of a game. Obviously there's a few turnovers and things like that didn't go their way, and obviously senior's a heck of a team. But I really give Caleb a lot of credit, and I'm sure Coach Arnston would as well, talking to him throughout this season about Caleb. So taking a look at him, we'll see mostly quarterback stuff. We see him transitioning to the other side of the ball, but again, you love a guy that understands the offensive side, what teams are trying to take away. Again, zone read, okay, wanting the ball in his hands, making the correct read, but again, has that athleticism. Again, longer frame, measures out well, long arms, going to be an outstanding defender for us in the secondary. Again, making guys miss. Okay, one of the things, right? Doesn't get flustered. He just takes it to the house and makes a touchdown out of a broken play. So again, really excited about the Montana guys and their work and their dedication and commitment to us out throughout the process, and appreciate all the high school coaches giving us time to get in there and coming up, sending their guys up to camp and bringing their guys. A lot of guys came to team camp, so those things were huge for us to be able to put this class together.
Thanks, Pete.
Thanks, guys.
Appreciate it. For these Montana kids, he does an unbelievable job developing relationships with them, and I think that's one of the reasons why, really in our first 3 years here, I think we've done an excellent job of getting guys that fit us here at Montana State. It's not just about what the opportunity to play football. It's you look at a young man like Nolan Askelson. I mean, a lot of other people wanted his skills as well, but this is a guy that had a 33 math and a 32 composite on his ACT and wanted to be an engineer, and that's why he's coming to Montana State. You know, I look at Lane. Lane, we do this thing called the smokehouse. We don't go out there and time every single kid at camp. We'd be there all day, just doing nothing but looking at 40 times. So we just line them up and say, okay, skill guys go. All right, you 5 guys were in the top. They get in the next heat and they just keep running and keep running and keep running. The thing I remember about him, when I knew I needed him to be a Bobcat, he beat the guy that ended up as the Gatorade Player of the Year in the state of Montana this year in the Smokehouse. And so I was like, okay, let's go. And so I'm not exactly sure what Gatorade is looking at, because how Troy Anderson wasn't the Gatorade Player of the Year a year ago in the state of Montana, I think that needs to be talked about. But you got, that's all right. He was the Big Sky Freshman of the Year. I guess we got his accolades after all, so, and a freshman All-American. But those are the things that stood out a little bit about that group, and a lot of it was at camps. Whether it was Joey and his team coming down here, or Lane coming down and competing in individual competition, or Caleb Winterberg, because on those one-day camps, it's a cattle call, and you've got 350 kids from literally all over the United States. And when a kid from Montana can make us go, that's pretty impressive, and do it repeatedly, we know that we want that guy to be a part of our program, and they're not afraid to compete, and that's a big, big deal for us. And speaking of competition, I'll turn it over to our recruiting coordinator. This gentleman has done a fabulous job of really allowing us to kind of go do our jobs in terms of recruiting. Sets everything up for us to make us be able to just go, hey, we can get on the road, we can dig in, develop relationships with these players, bring back the players that we want to look at. He and Cole sit down and put the pieces together for how we're going to go about the evaluation process. And I think our kind of two-headed monster with BJ handling the in-state recruiting and Michael coordinating the out-of-state recruiting has been excellent for us, and it's a good fit for us right now, and does a great job. So I'll turn it over to Coach Pitre.
First off, I want to thank Coach for obviously giving me the opportunity to be the recruiting coordinator, but it really comes down to his vision for this program. Obviously the staff has done a great job, but again, it comes down to his vision and saying this is kind of the way we're going to attack this thing. And as you can see with BJ talking about Nolan, talking about Caleb, those are guys that played quarterback but are able to play other positions because they're athletes. And so that kind of leads me to Casey Bauman for Everson, Washington, Nooksack Valley High School. Casey is a big-time athlete, a dual sport athlete. As Coach has in the press release, Casey was a kid that's averaging 25 points a game playing basketball. Great length, came to camp this summer, and outside of playing quarterback, we had him doing some things as a tight end, had him doing some things as an outside linebacker, and that's one of the reasons we're fired up about him. And more importantly, comes from a phenomenal family and is a great, great young man, and is going to do a great job here in Bozeman, representing himself and representing the Montana State Bobcats.
This is a throw that we need somebody to make. Now look at that seam ball right there.
There it is, attack the middle of the field. Up next, Justin Colley, 5'9", 195-pound running back from Venice High School in Los Angeles. Justin is an explosive athlete, really does a lot of different things, plays on both sides of the ball, plays running back, plays receiver, plays linebacker. And one of the things, there we go, sorry about that. One of the things that we loved about Justin is his versatility out of the backfield with his ability to catch the ball. And I think we all think this, his best football is ahead of him. You know, he has to continue to develop himself physically, but again, a phenomenal young man that wanted to come here because he's interested in being an engineer. And so again, it's a great fit. And really for the out-of-state guys, once we get them here to Bozeman, it's an easy sell. Because again, the community accepts him. Leon does a phenomenal job giving up some of his time and coming and talking to those young men and their families. And so again, I think what they understand when they leave here after their official visit is football is important to us here at Montana State, and most importantly, want to find phenomenal young men to represent Montana State University. Sorry about that. There we go. Tyrese Gibson. So the twins, kind of the way we've kind of described these guys. So Tyrese and Tyrek, long athletes out of Paramount, California. Coming in as playing DBs, but honestly, those guys can play on either side of the ball because of their skill set. Long, competitive, athletic guys. And again, they've been guys that we've been recruiting for about a year and a half, and so they just continue to learn more information about Montana and Montana State. And when they got up here, they were all in. It seemed like they had already been here for a while. And that was awesome. And again, they come from phenomenal background, phenomenal family. And again, they're ready to come up here and compete. And you know, the best part about it is we brought all these committed guys up together, and they built the relationship and started building this bond of understanding what we're trying to get done here, which is obviously get their degree, but also make sure that we're competing and playing for championship. So Tyrese here, again, another long athlete. Again, can play on either side of the ball, physical, can run, do a lot of different things, and obviously being able to add some length in the back end is going to be important for us because, again, schematically that's going to allow Coach Ty and the defensive staff to do a lot of different things on the defensive side of the ball. And last but not least, from our out-of-state guys is a young man by the name of Derek Snell. Derek came to camp from Alaska, and talking to his family when they were here on their official visit, they were blown away. And with just their opportunity to be here in Bozeman and everything Bozeman had to offer. And when he got that offer, they said they were ready to commit right there on the spot. So again, it speaks to this place and the people here at this place. One of the things that we love about Derek is he's a very versatile athlete. As you can see on the film, and I know we only have a few clips, he lines up at tight end, running back, receiver, quarterback. He does just about anything for his football team, and that's why he was a Gatorade Player of the Year in Alaska. And he's a pretty dang good basketball player too. We were in Universal Athletics, and we were trying to mess around with basketball, and he said, okay, this kid's a baller, And so again, we're excited to get him into the blue and gold, and again, I know he's gonna do some good things for us.
Thank you, Michael. So I appreciate everybody being here. When we're examining what we need to do at the mid-year, there were really a handful of things that we felt that were important. One of them was providing some depth and some competition at the place kicking position. Joe Patmos had a tremendous year for us as a punter, was second team all-league. We were among the best in the league and in the country in terms of our net punting, and so we felt like that was in a good space. And with our situation at kicker, we just felt like we need a guy that can be a weapon for us on kickoffs. On those times when you got to keep the ball away from a dynamic returner, know a guy can bang the ball out of the back of the end zone, that's something that you really don't think about until you have to have it. And then also, be able to create that competition and that depth at the place kicking position. And so Tristan Bailey's a young man that came from Colorado Springs, Colorado. Originally had been at the University of Wyoming and then transferred to Coffeyville Community College. And so great job by BJ and our special teams group to be able to kind of identify this guy, develop that relationship that we're talking about. Finished the year very strong, was an 85% touchback guy, and then there was 9 for 9, made his last consecutive 9 field goals at Coffeyville. The thing that stood out to me, you can see the pop on the ball that he has, but he gets great elevation on his place kicks as well. And when you can, in this league, there's some long guys that will come after you up the pipe, and so I know it may not be the sexiest sign, but it might be one of the most important ones, at the end of the day. Because you could, those of you in this room that had to live through some of the painful things that happened to us last year, you'd like to have 3 or 3 here or there. And if we did, we might have been a little bit happier with the final record that we had. So very excited about Tristan. He's a big physical kid. He does not look like a kicker. I mean, he walks in the door and you're like, that guy can play linebacker. And those are the kind of guys I like at the kicking position, the guys that are truly athletes. Travis Johnson, highly touted young man. Actually, we talked about relationships and how important those are in the recruiting process. Travis was a freshman in high school when Michael was at Servite High School. And they maintained a relationship and a connectivity from AJ Gass, the head coach, to Coach Pitre. Travis enrolled early at the University of Oregon, so he graduated and enrolled early in March before his true freshman year. Competed for the job with Dakota Prue Cup. And went right down to the wire in fall camp, and it was talking to one of their former coaches, their former offensive coordinator. It was basically a flip of the coin. And they went with Dakota. Things didn't end up working out right. Then insert some Benning Herbert, and Travis is looking for another opportunity to kind of restart his career. Transferred, he's an outstanding student. I think was he 3.7?
3.9.
3.9. Well, cut the guy short right there. But outstanding student, great family. Had an opportunity to really engage with his mother on the official visit this last weekend. I think he sees this as an opportunity to be in a position where his skill set is valued, very similar in terms of some of his athletic ability to what Chris has. We see it as an opportunity for a young man like Chris to be challenged and pushed. And that's what we need to be our best in this program. If we get championship level quarterback play, look out. And that's what we're hoping Travis can come in and compete with guys that are in the program like Tucker Robig and Chris Murray, and bring some maturity and some experience with him. I'd say very similar skill set. Like I said, you can see his height and weight, a little bit bigger than Chris, but similar athlete. And is an accomplished player, and is a guy that I think brings immediate credibility to that room when he steps in there with some of the things that he'd achieved as a high school player as well. These are some of the junior college highlights you can see. Talked about his ability to move without, kind of when the offense breaks down, what can he do outside the pocket? Offense, you can see his speed and athleticism there. I don't think that's going to be questioned. I think he's going to step in and everybody's going to go, yeah, that guy's a good player. This is probably where you can see it here, is making these throws right here from the far hash and then spotting the ball on a curl route at 15 yards. Good deep ball thrower as well, and I think those are things that are going to add value to our roster. And that's what the objective was we needed to create competition and add value at that quarterback position. At the end of the day, I think we're going to be able to put a team out there that is going to be good enough to compete for a championship, if and only if we have championship level quarterback play. And so Travis is going to be a young man that I think can help elevate that room. Big Bacon, Tyler Nate, okay, talked about relationships again, okay? So here's a young man that was at Indiana University, but he's from Euless Trinity High School. We've got a lot of former really great Bobcats, one of them in this room, and Denarius McGee, they're graduates of Euless Trinity. Sam Liotta is a young man that's in our program right now. Followed this guy there. One of the former assistant coaches here, Noah Joseph, who's a secondary coach at the University, at Indiana University now. Hey, this guy's got caught in the wash a little bit. They brought him in. He played a bunch as a true freshman. Wildcat quarterback, did a lot of different things for him. In fact, I think he was wasn't he the Big 12 or Big 10 offensive player of the week one week against Maryland? And then they had a coaching change. And they shifted from kind of this gun run style to more of a one-back conventional stuff. And he kind of got caught in the wash there. They asked him to make a position change, really wanted to be a ball carrier. And if you look out the window today, I hope we play in some games where somebody's got to tackle this guy, because they're not going to enjoy it. And when Nick walked out the door, we realized, hey, we need to have a big back. What is this going to allow us to do? I'm hoping that it allows us to allow a guy like Troy to really sink in and be a full-time defensive player that we don't have to split as much time with. Okay, and I think that you'll see that this guy's probably got the ability to do some of that. Played quarterback, that was his primary position at Euless Trinity, and then they utilized him in that role a lot. But you can see, for a big man, he is not sloppy, he is put together well, and he's got tremendous balance. And so I think that's why he can play a skill position at this size. I'm probably dating myself here, but he's a leaner Ironhead Hayward. I mean, that's his running style for maybe some people that remember that guy. And that's a guy that I think is going to be a huge asset for us with our style in the fourth quarter of games when we're trying to grind the clock out and on short yardage and goal line situations. Bryce Sturck, a young man from Linden, Washington, Northwest Washington, was a guy that we signed at the University of Washington while I was there, and brought him in to play defensive end. We redshirted him. He was really, really good high school football program. Linden it'd be probably more kind of between A and B, maybe more like a Class A school in the state of Montana in terms of the size, but is a very, very well-respected program. And he was a guy that was an excellent player for them, was an excellent track athlete. He is a big dude that can run. And he is all of 6'4" and all of 256 pounds. And he's a guy that when we got there, it was kind of ironic. We got him there, and then the next year we signed a 4-star guy and a 5-star guy in consecutive years right in front of his position. And so it was one of those deals as we were building the program at Washington, we took some guys and tried to develop some of those guys, and he kind of got caught in the wash a little bit when we brought in 2 big-time players in front of him that have obviously pushed that program over the top. But obviously, he's a guy that was in the room that I was in. That was who I recruited. I know this young man's character. I know what he's all about. I know what his family's all about. And this guy's got everything that it takes to be a great player, physically. And now we've got to be able to give him the support to say, go be a guy. Go be a guy. Go trust in yourself and believe in yourself as much as we believe in you. And this guy's going to do some spectacular things here. So we're excited about his future. You can just kind of see, this is some high school film. You can just see his length and athleticism. We will put him off the bus first. I promise you that. He's a big, good-looking son of a gun. And so, I think he gives us immediate value in his place that we needed it. If we're going to improve on third downs and takeaways, we've got to do a better job of affecting the quarterback. We can put him on the edge, and I think he can do a variety of things, whether he plays as an end, X or a jack or a joker in our base package, or nickel package rather, or whether he plays some buck. I don't know exactly, but we'll get there and we'll figure it out. And I think all of those guys, like I said, meet immediate needs. Help us on special teams, help us on offense, help us on defense. And now the big thing for me as the head coach is, okay, with these 15 guys and 4 of them coming in early, and there may be some more. We got 72 hours here. Hopefully there'll be maybe one more that we'll get taken care of. That's a lot of clarity for us. And I look around the league and I look at it and I go, okay, Sac State 4, NAU 4, Poly 4, PSU 2, Eastern Washington 7, Montana State 15. I know we're going to be able to do a really good job with our resources and the amount of time that we have of filling our remaining needs based on the fact that we're not looking for 25 guys. We're looking for probably somewhere between 7 and 10 guys to finish this thing out. So, sorry about that. All right, questions?
On Jory, so he's a preferred walk-on. Does that mean
Yes.
he hasn't signed yet specifically?
He doesn't sign anything.
He doesn't sign anything.
I mean,
okay.
basically, we can announce them if they have been accepted to the university and/or paid their housing deposit.
Okay.
And so it's something, we've done that with a number of young men in the past, and this was to keep the home front nice and secure. And you've got to have priorities in life, and that's number one. But I will say this, and it'll probably be the last time I'll talk about it, because I'm not going to coach him. That'll either be Ty or Byron or somebody else, BJ on special teams. If we weren't talking about my son, he might be signing something. I think he's one of the top 15 players in the state, and there's no question about it. And so I'm proud of him. But it's going to be hard being. He's been a coach's kid his whole life. He knows what he's getting with his dad. Let me just put it that way. And he knows how to steer clear of it.
Can you talk about some of the influences of how this signing period kind of swelled? Hoped to get 7, ended up with 15. What are some of the influences?
Yeah, I think some of the mid-year guys, because there was so much. I mean, you look at it like December 20th. That's boom. It's right on you. And we're not talking about a lot of junior college guys here. We're talking about some bounce downs here too. And so there's a lot of factors that go into that. If some of these guys were playing in bowl games, for example, if Indiana was in a bowl game, this probably wouldn't have happened. If I didn't have the relationship that I have with some of the coaches at the University of Washington, say, okay, here's how we're going to piece this thing together, allow Bryce to continue to be a part of that program and experience the Fiesta Bowl and those kind of things, and know how we're going to transition it. So again, relationships played a huge key in this, and timing is weird. This is a tough one, because it's such a quick turnaround when our semester starts on January 10th. And to be able to get these guys here on campus so that they can feel good about their decision to move on and make Montana State their new home, there's a lot of those things that came into it. And I don't know how this is going to work moving forward. I don't. I mean, I know this. I think for us, with some of the goals and the aspirations that we have in our program, we're going to have to probably look at more in-season visits. Because to say that, okay, if we're playing, round 2, round 3 of the playoffs, how are you going to do that? I mean, Weber, by design, probably didn't sign as many guys because they couldn't allocate the resources and the time that they would need to, making a deep run into the playoffs that way.
Looks like Travis Johnson, has the complete dual threat skill set. Just talk about how he's going to change maybe the competition once you guys get back out on the field.
Well, it's the quarterback room. There's been a couple of rooms that we've looked at, and it's really been hard for us to kind of fix them. And one of them is quarterback. When we got here, Dakota was the incumbent starter. Dakota made a choice to move to another university. We had a young man that we brought in that got beat out, and so he moves on and graduates and moves on. And then we had a guy that was a freshman in that previous class, didn't really fit what we were going to do. He moves on. So you've kind of got bang, bang, bang. You got a little problem there, right? And that's not a good place to have a problem. So really, Chris has become the starter here almost by default. And what we've got to do is we've got to continue to increase the competition in that room, because if Chris ends up being our starter, that's good for the Bobcats, because we brought in guys that were pretty good players. And if it's Tucker or Travis or somebody else, that's good for the Bobcats too. And so what we need to do is we need to create competition in that room, and I think this was a huge step towards doing that for us, and not having to force a true freshman to step in and play immediately. Now we've got a guy who's redshirted and has been in the program, who I think has a big upside. We've got a young man that's a mature kid that's been around the block and he's played big time college football, and he's stepping in the room. And then we've got a guy who, oh, by the way, has beaten Montana 2 consecutive years. And so I think those are important things.
Talk about the time crunch. What was the strategy, and how were you able to bat such a high percentage with the 2 weeks that you brought guys on visits this recently?
Well, I'll tell you this. I think if we get families up here, it's a home run. I think that the reality of Bozeman, Montana, just so much further. It goes so past what the perception is that it's almost. I mean, from the time they step off the plane and realize, wow, this is a nice airport, and we can get places from here, and as welcoming as our staff and our community is, Bozeman, Montana is an awesome place. It really is. And it's a hidden gem in a lot of ways, because if you're from Southern California or you're from Texas, you may not know this is what this place is. And I think that if we get parents up here with these kids and they realize this is a safe place, this is a community where my son can thrive, there's great support around him, that's a huge positive for us. And not unlike, I think Boise was kind of like that too. You know, it's like Boise, Idaho, Bozeman, Montana, these little, you know, in their mind, these little podunk places, and they think, you know, heck, they think people are going to be driving cattle down Main Street here when they get here. And that's not it. They go, okay, this is a resort town with a major university in it. That's a pretty awesome combination. And there's some great people here and the direction of the program. And so, you know, I mean, I'll be honest with you, I tip the hat to my wife. We have these families up at our place every Friday night. And by the time they leave, I don't think they even care about me. They just want to hang out with her, and you know, the moms get along and they develop a connection. And I think that family feel goes a long ways because I think it's real.
When you look at the guys that played at the FBS level and now transferring here, how do those guys elevate, you know, the program overall?
Well, let me say this. I'll tell you exactly what I told them. The guys that in my short time here, the guys that have been successful and making that step are not the guys that come in pounding their chest and talking about, well, hey, you know, I played at XYZ. Look at me. They're the guys that are hungry and humble. They're excited for their opportunity to really be the every down guy that they thought they were going to be when they went to whatever university that might have been. And so I think that the correct mindset is what's important for these guys to say, there's dadgum good players everywhere you go. And I think a lot of those guys realize that. They come in thinking, hey, I'm going to the Big Sky. Well, guess what? Cooper Kupp was a pretty good player. You know, oh, by the way, Carson Wentz was a pretty good player. You know, and so they walk in here and they realize there's good talent and they have to have the correct mindset. That of being a competitor and a great teammate. And if they embrace those two things, they're going to have an awesome career, no matter how it works out for them on the field. Because they're here for the right reasons, for the experience, the educational opportunity, to be a part of this great program.
With what you're trying to build here, mentality-wise, I think 8 of the last 10 Montana Defensive Players of the Year are committed to Montana State, 2 in a row. So how important is that to get the Montana AA player, Defensive Player of the Year?
Yeah, well, I think that, you know, I'd like to think that we could do that every year, but I know that's going to be a tall order. This is an interesting state, as you know. I mean, I think at the end of the day, there are going to be some families that you're not going to overcome that connection or that loyalty to one side or the other, so to speak. And maybe there's some of that has played into it for us. You know, Keaton's family was a Montana State family. And so, you know, Nolan, I think, was a great fit for us. But I do think that, you know, our objective every year is to get the best players that we can get out of the state of Montana first and foremost, and then look elsewhere. I mean, the bottom line is this, and I've said this over and over and over again, our heart and soul will come from the state of Montana. We may have to go get some arms and legs somewhere else, but our heart and soul will come from the state of Montana.
This group was bigger than maybe your first estimate was earlier in the month. How did that change as the process kind of...
Yeah, I think it was some of these bounce down guys,
Okay.
you know, that we maybe didn't know were going to be available, and they were getting done with their semesters, and they were going in and having conversations with their coaches about what the next step for them might be. And all of a sudden it's like boom, 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 you're going, oh, okay, we got, because really the high school stuff was it's kind of what we thought it was going to be. But where this mid-year signing period probably changed the most was with the bounce downs, and then Travis, the one junior college guy, but he's more of a bounce down because he's only there for a semester, so.
In the state and even across the hill, maybe some guys that didn't sign, how would you evaluate Montana recruits this year, this signing?
It's a loaded question, Brooks. I would say this, you know, there's like any state, you're going to have years where it's excellent, and then you're going to have years where it's kind of in the middle. And I don't know that Montana's going to bottom out. I don't know what the number is yet. I haven't been here long enough. But I'd say on an average year, you're going to have maybe 7 to 10 real live FCS players. And on a great year, you're going to have 12 to 15 for a state, you know, with just around 1 million people. That's probably about right. And then, you know, once every 5 years, you're going to get a guy like a Will Disley or a Matt Miller, you know, or I would throw Troy Anderson into that. I think he's that type of talent. And I think that's just kind of how the cycle works, and it's just how you hit it. And but I'll say this, you never know which one of these young men is going to be the next guy, you know, the next Caleb Schreibeis or the next Chad Newell, because obviously there's a long and rich tradition of young men on both sides of the hill that have walked in, and whether they were walk-ons or they were low partials or they were just begging for an opportunity to play between the white lines, that you just can't count them out. And so we know that's got to be, like I said, that's got to be a big part of the glue of our program.
With Jory, just what were maybe some of those conversations like, you know, kind of...
Well, I don't know that, I mean, for me, I mean, I'm a pretty honest guy. You know, I'm like, here's where I think you're at. Like, I've done this for a while. Let me evaluate you. And he knows that, so I'll go, hey, this is the deal. this is where I think you can play. And he had other opportunities, some other places. But I know the conversation was, do you want to play at the highest level that you can possibly play at? Or do you want to have it, what is the experience you're looking for? Okay, I want to test myself and play at the highest level. Okay, let's go. And so, he's going to be okay. He's going to be okay. Coach Tile makes sure of that.
So what is it going to look like now from here until February 7th?
Well, it goes dead until the
Yeah.
9th or the 11th, I guess it is.
Yeah.
And so, and then I think there's another sprint.
Okay.
Maybe we've got to do a great job as we get in here after the first of the year and really kind of formulate a very detailed list of our remaining needs. And I would kind of highlight those by saying, still defensive back, still, probably a DPR designated pass rusher type of guy on the D line, and then an offensive line are probably the three biggest priorities that we have. That's probably not a whole lot different than 99% of the other places in the country. And so we're going to have to do a really good job of digging in on that. The good news is this provides a lot of clarity for us, and we can say we don't need to cast the net quite as wide. We can kind of hone in and put that bullseye on a list of 4 or 5 guys at each one of those positions and find the ones that are going to fit Montana State.
Can you put a number on what you think that class will be in February?
I said 7 to 12 in this period, and it ended up being 15. And I'd probably be a little low, but I would say between 6 and 10 somewhere is probably what it's going to be. And some of that depends on, like I said, we're at or near our peak now. I mean, there's not a lot of roster room here. And to me, and I know that it creates some really, I think, heartburn for these guys. And I think that's a good thing. Like, I think that means that, okay, we've got to the point where we're retaining our guys, they're developing the right way, we're rewarding guys that are in the program, former walk-ons, former partials, that are getting more scholarship money because they bought into what we're doing. And I think that's a sign of a healthy program. It makes for, a little bit tougher decisions in the staff room sometimes. But that's okay, that's a positive thing, I think.